are honored to welcome Dr. Elizabeth Teagarden, founder and principal consultant of CTK at Work, a division of the Conrad Trosh and Kemi with over a decade of experience in consulting and conflict resolution. Dr. Teagarden has helped businesses create productive, respectful, and drama-free workplaces. A Rotarian and lifelong Charlottean, she holds a doctorate from North Carolina State and senior HR credentials. Dr. Teagarden also hosts the popular At Work podcast and serves on various meditation panels, mediation
Yes.
panels, and boards. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Dr. Elizabeth Teagarden.
And now, Barbara. Hey, Barbara. Hey, Barbara. Yeah.
Is she here?
Can you hear Barbara?
Hey, Barbara.
Oh, no. Yes.
So it's a real pleasure to be here. Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Just turn.
When I joined Rotary in 1995, so I'm looking that way. Right? Okay. When I joined Rotary in 1995 as one of the few female Rotarians in the district, because Rotary had just started admitting women in 1989, my Rotary sponsor, I was just telling the story, wanted me to join the Charlotte Club. And they wouldn't have me because I wasn't old enough and important enough yet. So they sent me to Dilworth, which at the time had, Jim, how many members would we have had then? Yeah, yeah. I've been saying for years 200, but maybe it just felt like 200. It was big. Yeah, it was a big club. We met at St. Luke's Lutheran, and when I was there, then I don't know where before that, but and we had a wonderful catered lunch, and we were in the fellowship hall, and it was a big meeting, and it was a little overwhelming as there were maybe 7 or 8 women, one of which was Cynthia Marshall at Communities and Schools, and Sharon Decker at the time was at Duke Energy. She was a member of the club at the time, but there weren't that many women, and I was complaining, and someone said, we should go to a smaller club. So I went to the top of the week, which was not that much smaller. It was still 80 or 90 members that met at the top of the First Union Tower. But Rotary's changed a lot, and I think that we were talking earlier, one of the things that I think has changed is when companies stopped paying for the fees, right? This really made it hard for people to continue. But it saddens me in some way because a lot of what I'm going to talk about today that makes a great place to work in a smaller and medium business has to do with character. And without membership in Rotary clubs, I don't know how we apply the peer pressure for the character traits that really make great leaders and make great places to work. So I want to start with that Rotary connection because the 4-way test, I teach it to my clients all the time. I encourage them to come to Rotary, but this is a great way to build a drama-free workplace, right? Starting with the first one, is it the truth, right? That's a hard thing to do in an organization because organizations are political environments. They just are. And so starting with the 4-way test is a reason why I think we really ought to be inviting a lot more of the small and medium businesses back into Rotary. I mean, it's great that the corporations send members, but I think the small businesses really need this kind of character support, that sort of thing. And I'm curious where your family's from.
India,
Which part?
Mumbai.
Okay, so I was the group study exchange team leader to district this way of
314.
I'll think a bit about the time I get done with the speech, but we went Goa, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. When we flew into Mumbai, went to Goa first and then went out from there. And we were there for 5 weeks, talking to all of the clubs, sometimes twice a day, one in one town, then the evening in another town.
Wow.
And India just rolled out the red carpet for us and gave us the rock star treatment, which was Indian hospitality on steroids, really. It was wonderful. And a great story about that too. This is things that Rotary can do for people, right? We don't have the group study exchange program anymore, but it was a program that would send young professionals. You had to be to another country to see what your industry looks like in another country. And you had a Rotarian as team leader, and I was the Rotarian team leader. So we would come to these clubs where no women were members, and way out in the villages. And they would walk up to the men on my team and, you know, they'd say, she's the Rotarian. And, so the district governor said, that's okay, we'll fix this. We'll pick you up in the morning. So they picked me up in the morning, took me to their personal tailor, and two beautiful silk saris made. And I said, this really is not necessary. They said, oh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is. And then after that, we went to the jeweler and they said, this is the most important part, so that the men will respect you. You're a married woman. And so they had a medical suits were made for me.
Oh,
which is
my.
the white shoes with the two bowls, to go with the sari. And then we got home and it got delivered. We put it all on and they said, one moment. And they said, go get your Rotary blue blazer. And so I put that over the sari. They said, now you're Indira Gandhi. They will respect you. So for the rest of the trip, I traveled in the sari with the blue blazer over it. Didn't have any trouble
Wow.
whatsoever after that, but it's a great experience. So anyway, sorry to reminisce a little bit about Rotary with you, but I have been talking to clubs and decided that rather than have a speech with a PowerPoint, which feels kind of stiff in a small room, that I would make it interactive. And I'm curious how many people work in companies with less than 1,000 employees that are here today. I mean, is it just about everybody? It's this table, yeah, no? You big company, yeah? Over here? No, you're retired, right? Yeah. This is the retired side of the room. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, are you still working? Yes, that person is in. Oh, it's a big company. So, so I've been fascinated with solving people problems in small businesses for a very long time. So I started my career in nonprofit administration. I worked at communities and schools with Cynthia Marshall. Then I wanted to be executive director at Hands on Charlotte. And, you always had small staff, and you always would have drama that was not, you know, go read the books on leadership, and then it doesn't really work out that way in small business. I got an executive coach to kind of help me figure out how to do this, and she had a great saying, and it launched me in the direction of which my career has taken, which is it'd be a great place to work if it wasn't for the people. To get our job done, and then there's all these people around, and we've got these people problems. And it's this wry observation that's true that in it's true in large companies, but it's amplified in the tiny companies, because in large companies, because of the bureaucracy and because of the structure of things, unless you're in it interpersonally with someone, you can kind of distance yourself and find a way away from the drama that's happening, right? You're not like, in a small company, there's nowhere to hide, right? If two people are having drama and you've got a staff of 10, there's nowhere to hide. And especially if you've got 3 people and one of them's having drama or something, then everybody's in it, right?
Understand.
Yeah, how many staff do you guys have?
5.5 now. That's after adding one 2 weeks ago.
Well,
That's
the other small ones here.
I think we're under 20 people. It's all girls except for one.
I had a client last year that was all female except for the president. It's very unusual. 5, yeah.
I have 2, but we outsource our work as well. So
How many,
it's just me and my husband. We run our firm
All
together.
the drama then.
family business on top of that.
Uh-huh.
You can have all kinds of things.
I think I would still be in a branch, even though we're a large corporation, there are people here that work in the same location all day long together.
Yes, you've got a subset or a tiny context, you know, and, the other saying I always have was, a lot of the books and the methodologies and things I've studied in my PhD and all that, it's all done, all that research is done in the big corporations. And so the knowledge that we have for organizational development, industrial psychology, about how to solve some of these problems, is not studied in these small contexts. So I've had to figure out, like, how do you take these good tools and then translate them when you've got 5 people, 5.5 people, 10 people, and with subcontractors. Like, how do you translate that? So before I kind of share some of my thoughts on making a great place to work, let me just give you some context about what I mean when I say small workplaces. I have a question. What percentage of people working, employed in North Carolina are part of a workforce of 100 people or more? percentage of,
30.
are part of the big corp, well, probably 1,000 people, 1,000 employees. Think of it that way. In the big, what percentage of, 10% of North Carolina employed by the big corporations? It's actually 55%.
Okay, okay, okay.
So 45% of people that are getting paychecks right now are working in the small businesses, but here is the most interesting part of that statistic. Small businesses make up what percentage of North Carolina companies?
Less than 8.
No, what percentage, like, all companies operating in
60%, 60?
97.
99.6.
Wow.
So 4.04 of the employers are employing 55% of the working population. And the small businesses, which make up 99.6%, are employing 45%. It's just like half and half, but the number of big companies are just a fraction of the entities that are operating in North Carolina. So when you do the like back of the envelope math on that, that means that there are all these entities that are probably 10, like this room, it's very representative of half of the working people in North Carolina. 5, 10, 5, 2, right? And a little village. a little colder. That means that, and also if you look at, like, if I had a PowerPoint, I'd say that if you did a bar graph of taking those small businesses, right, and you did a bar graph of how many are 10 or less employees, or 25 to 11 to 25 and 26 to 50, and you put that first category of 0 to 10 would be the tallest bar. And then the next one, 11 to 25, would drop off to dramatically. And then the rest of the page would look like, you know, a very long, lean tail. So when you get to 50 employees or 100 employees, you're down to just a very small fraction of the 99.6 that makes up that. So a lot of people work in very tiny workforces, turns out. And one of the things that is a big concern post-pandemic is finding talent. And so that's what the talk is really about, is some of the talent retention methods that work in small businesses. I'm curious, you've grown.
We have grown.
What advice do you have for the room about talent retention when you have five employees?
Well, we've been very fortunate in that of the 4.5 that were there before we just added a new person. We've all been there 5 years or more. So I think the important thing is take your time selecting people to the extent that that's possible. Make sure, especially with a nonprofit, that you've got somebody who is really passionate about our mission. That's absolutely the key as far as I'm concerned, above and beyond any credentials, education experiences. That is passion for our mission, and that's so important. We have Taylor Houston, who many of you know, was drastically overqualified for the program coordinator position we hired him for back in December of 2019. PhD in sociology, former college professor, burned out on academia, a real passion for service and literacy, and he's been a great fit. So open your mind as to who might be qualified for any given job.
The number one thing that people who make the jump from a corporate job to a small business job is that they're looking for flexibility and an opportunity of personal expression. Right, that's really the reason. Like, we see a lot of movement in the workforce, and that's why I gave those two statistics about how small the number of entities they're employing, a large number of people. A large number of those people are, after the pandemic, making the move to smaller businesses, either buying a business, starting their business, joining a small business, because there's less and less opportunity for personal expression, whatever that means in your role. So those are two big levers, and that's a perfect case study in exactly what works in small business for finding talent, and you're not doing the same kind of job search, right? A lot of people that we work with think, I'm going to post this job on Indeed, and I'm going to give these, you're like, did you have a story about this?
I owned a business and I managed 45 people. at one point. Yeah, workforce is a problem.
Give us a story.
Oh, I had all kinds of stories, about, I don't know, just trying to find the talent, the right talent, and I think the biggest thing for us was like, you have to let people do the job you hired them to do their way. Sometimes, and not micromanage too much. I used to tell people, double-edged sword, sometimes you give them enough rope to hang themselves. But I used to tell people like, this is kind of what I want. You're the expert. Do what you do, put systems in place, especially if they're managerial level before you, under you. And sometimes that's a roll of the dice, but you have to let them do that because that's why you hired.
And that's exactly the version that I'm talking, the definition of personal expression. I don't mean that I could dress differently or I could have a different identity at work, although sometimes that's it if you're in a very buttoned up corporate environment. But it's that I have some ideas about how to do my role well. I want to have some autonomy in my role. I want to be able to find efficiencies. I want to be able to be creative in my role. That's not possible in a major corporation. It's just really not. Yes.
Elizabeth, just wanted to share that we have a similar issue in Rotary. We seem to always be talking about bringing people on, getting people through the doors, but it's the engagement piece after that's a challenge for us. So one of the things that I'm doing with every new Rotarian who signs on is giving them an opportunity to spend 30 minutes with me on a call to know about with them. Welcome them to Rotary, first of all, learn a little bit about them, but to assure them and to, when I make my club visits, tell the club residents, you can't just bring them in. You've got to nurture people, make them feel included in what you're doing. Keep them involved in committees right away. When they want to do it, you have to listen to them.
That's one of the things that I think has changed about Rotary that I wish we could about is that mentoring support. One of the greatest things that Rotarians individually took upon themselves to help me with, not because I was on committee and not because I was, anything other than just a fellow member of the club, was how do you walk into a room? How do you walk into a workroom? How do you conduct yourself when you're going to go speak to a board of directors? If you're going to make a call on a CEO or on a business owner, what do you say? How do you do that? How do you dress? How do you carry yourself? What's the cadence of conversation? How do you be assertive? And this wasn't just women, this was men and young people learning. How do you be assertive? How do you know when to talk and when to not talk? The men in the Dilworth Rotary Club took me to lunch and by their example and by their mentoring, helped me know how to do business in Charlotte. They helped me know who to call to open the door to the next person that I wanted to get to. And what you're doing is in that same vein of you have friends and you can call those friends. And I'll even plus the example. So I just hired an associate. CTK Works Growing. We hired an associate a year ago. He's fabulous. And it was his first time moving from an administrative role into a consulting role where, he's going to step out into the community in his own right and do his work. And I had him join our leadership impact group that we just started under Edwin at Charlotte Club. So he's part of the leadership impact group. And so I'm going out to have lunch with people or whatever, and he's helping me book the appointments. He helped me book coming here to speak. And I said, give him a call and let him know that I want to catch up with him. And it was very formal email of Mr. So-and-so, and has different. I'm like, you're a Rotarian. You're there here. You can say, hey, Bill, Elizabeth want to reach out and have lunch. It would be like that versus this distancing and formality. Those kind of little things are why Rotary clubs can be so powerful to not just younger people, but to small business owners. Because a lot of people get into small business and they need that bigger group to help them know how to do, who to call, and who to ask questions. And it isn't just the manners piece of it, it's all of a sudden you have all these friends. I digress. And also it's Rotary, and I know I'm supposed to stop on time, but I don't know what time I'm supposed to stop, so.
It is 12:40, so you've got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can wrap this.
Yeah.
So the methods that we use for building a great culture in a major corporation don't completely translate for a small workforce, as you were just pointing to. You've got to do things a little differently. What works for the mayor in New York City does not work for the mayor of Mayberry, right? In New York City, there's a bureaucracy. Things are gonna go through channels. Things have to go through channels because it's so big. It's kind of like working with Rotary, like you were saying, with the Rotary Foundation. That's a big bureaucracy. You want to donate, that's great, but we don't know that those dollars are going to go to Western Carolina. But locally, we're Mayberry, and we can say, well, we've got this money, we're going to take that money back, and we're going to put it over here because we said, and we're going to do it, and we can be more influential. That's about it. But the other point about being the mayor of Mayberry is that if you think about, and I don't know how many people remember Andy Griffin.
Watch it every
Oh,
day.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know
No, I
the
agree.
next generation hasn't seen it in rerun, but if you go take a look, it's kind of campy now, it's a little dated, but there's a lot of great wisdom in it. But if you were, how did Andy handle problems, drama in Mayberry? How did he handle?
Andy he liked to level set. He really liked to just push things down. Someone would help him with the problem. And Andy would say, hey, calm down, take a breath, and let's think about this. And he come up with practical solutions. There were two, I will never forget the one show where neighbors were arguing about a fence. And Barney had no idea what to do. And Andy suggested a compromise fence, someone you could see through. And they were like, no, we did it in a way, so not, at least in the earlier shows. In the earlier shows, they were more country bumpkins. But in the later shows, he made sure that he protected Barney. He really did. Andy liked to solve problems in a way that made everybody feel whole and without the need.
That's right. And so what I say is the Andy Griffith way of solving problems in the small businesses, that you don't have jobs with job descriptions. I mean, of course you do, we write those things for companies, but, and you have to think of it like, I've got a cast of characters. And I've got these people up on the hill that come to town every once in a while, and with the darlings, we have to deal with the darlings, you know, and we have Aunt B who cries at the drop of a hat, we have Barney who we have to help, and, but he lets them be themselves. And the solutions he gives is what that person would like, you know, because he's paid attention, and like you're saying, he's gotten to know what makes each person in the company tick. Yeah, you kind of share sort of thought.
No, I was just agreeing with you. Sometimes you have to identify their strengths and place them there outside of the description of their roles.
Right. Outside of their resume. Yeah, very often outside of their resume. In terms of growth, you have to think about growing a whole person versus growing them in their one skill that they're hired to do. Because there may not be a talent ladder, there may not be a place to get them promoted to. So if they're good at what they do and you want to retain them in a small business, you might give them an opportunity to pursue, you know, something that's an adjacency to what they do so that they feel they're being developed. And then there are creative ways to financially incentivize people in small businesses. We're more and more developing compensation packages that aren't just salary and bonus, it's salary and part of the ownership of business or different things like that. But most people I'm finding after 12 years of doing this work, if they're in a small business, they're probably, unless they're owning a small business, they're probably not motivated by money. We know they're not nonprofits. Right. But in small businesses too, they're more motivated by other things like opportunity to expand, opportunity to be flexible. Flexibility is a big one. And maximizing human potential in a small business is really what it's all about. So I'll stop there because it's Rotary. Any questions? With Nugent Peace Builders, that's Pat, I can't remember her name.
Mr. Schaefer.
Mr. Schaefer.
Yeah.
Station, what I got involved in was helping the district identify and successfully get through the system Peace Fellows. To go study. So if you guys know the Rotary Peace Fellow program, are y'all familiar with it? Everybody in the room, if you're not, look it up.
Last year.
Yeah, and so I was successful this year. Salim Ugda has been selected. He's a dear friend of mine, and he was the one I put forward, and Luther then helped getting through. And he'll be leaving for Queensland, Australia, on the 1st of December, and we're so excited for him. So yeah, another Peace Fellow going through. But I am a peace activator, with RI and that.
Great, super,
Yeah.
super. I want you on our piece of it.
Okay.
I do. I want to go to our piece of it.
Okay, I'm gonna work on that in a minute, so that'll be good.
How do you say no when you're up there? Like,
Right.
Put him on the spot, yeah.
I'd like to thank Dr. Teagarden for coming, and this is a small token of appreciation. Oh, thank you very much. Usable bag, so we're trying to promote environmental awareness, and I hope we use it.
Well, we're going to Western Carolina tomorrow. My son's at App State, he's in Boone, he's fine, he was fine, his apartment was 2 stories up, so he was totally fine, but we'll be going out to volunteer tomorrow, so. We'll take this and take it with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Teagarden, we've got one more thing we'd like you to help
Yes.
us with. We apples here.
Keeping them honest.
No, we have to preface this by the fact that our longtime member Dave Hodgkins wins about 75, 80%. He's not here.
Oh,
today.
big opportunity for someone else to win.
Yes.
Somebody else.
I should have bought some.
No. You can pull out one of those
Yeah.
and read the last few digits. Read the last 3 digits.
571.
Okay, so next week, we're gonna meet right here with the speaker and, I think that's about it. And tomorrow is the river cleanup. We are hoping for more people. I'm gonna send out another reminder today for people to, join us. Maybe Gavin or, Ashley. Did Ashley say anything?
Ashley has a work thing she has to do. Rebecca's coming.
Okay, yeah, Rebecca will be there. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Let's do a 5-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? And friendships will be beneficial to all concerned, and will it be fun?
I don't know that we can claim credit for that, but they're really well written. Yeah.
Love what you shared.
Thank you so much.
Back at my.
That's how I'm baptism by fire. Only way, it's the only way.
You know,
Your discretion.
But a lot of them are like you. Yeah. The husband and wife are business. I own an LLC. So that would be listed in that. I'm the only one working. So.
It was hard. It was hard.
And I'll tell you, so
to say that. Make sure you're friendly. Sometimes they forget you're the boss of others. They get all bent out of shape. You gotta be boss of others. What kind of business was it?
Owner has his own